See how it's getting nice and crispy, how juicy that is. Get that nice crispy skin and juicy. I love chicken. If you haven't had chicken, the original Black's Barbecue or smoked chicken with the crispy skin, the juicy meat, you are missing out. I think it's absolutely our most underrated meat on our entire menu. Every time I order it, I think to myself like, why do I not have this more often? But today I want to show you how you can do it at home as well on your own smoker. First is, we start of course with the whole chicken, but we're going to break this down just a little bit, very simply, to make it easier to handle on the smoker, get as much flavor as we possibly can, and have as many chances and make it as foolproof as we possibly can, get nice and crispy skin. So stay with me here. So we took it out of the package. I took out the neck and the giblets and the different things that were inside the chicken, but you always want to make sure you feel in there and get whatever's in there. Found a little bit more. We'll go ahead and throw that in there, save it for later. But what we're going to start with is we want to get this chicken to be at halves, actually. And the reason we do that is because it's going to cook more evenly, it's going to cook faster, and you're going to have an easier time handling it, moving it around on your smoker and your grill. Once this thing is spatchcocked or whatever, it gets kind of unwieldy and wobbly and that kind of stuff, and I don't really want to deal with tying it up and trussing it. That's a different type of cooking, not what we're doing. Taking a look here, I'm getting to know the bird, see like what's going on, feel what's going on, and then flip it over, and we're going to cut out this backbone. I like to keep things simple. I don't like to have a lot of extra tools in my kitchen, so this is my number one go-to. It's just a 7-inch chef knife. It's not the most expensive, it's not the cheapest, but it's just the workhorse of my kitchen. So you don't really need anything extra special or a cleaver or shears or anything like that, because chicken is pretty soft, the bones at least. So what I'm first going to do is just feel for that spine, and so you can kind of lift up the neck a little bit and kind of see the lines. You can kind of get a sense of the straight lines going forward. Here's some of the tail as well right here. So you just kind of draw a line in your mind on there. And then I like to just, not try to cut all the way through on that first pass, but just make a score mark. And then that kind of gives me a map to follow. So I'm just gonna barely push in through this upper part, the rib cage, and keep my fingers out of the way. I want to keep all those. As you get down further to the dark meat, does get a little bit harder, the bones. So that's where if you have a nice sharp knife, kind of saw through it, and then once you feel those harder parts, just like to position it nice and just kind of give it some wax, push on a little bit, break through those bones. So we broke through those leg bones. We're just gonna finish separating the skin, and there we go. We got a chicken that's nice, that's broken in half, basically spatchcocked, fancy word for flattening out the chicken. We still have the backbone over on this side, which we're about to deal with. So go ahead and flip that over. I'm just gonna push just to flatten out that breastbone a little bit more. And now to cut out the rest of this backbone, it's gonna be nice and easy because it's gonna be on our cutting board. So I'm just bending it up a little bit, pre-breaking it a little bit just to make it easier. As I go with my knife, I don't want to cut through the wing or anything like that. I'm just going to start right here by the tail and just gently score it. And again, remember the legs, that's where we had the most problem. The bones were a lot denser, a lot harder to cut through. So we're just going to save that for now, and we're going to just keep scoring it and drawing a nice line. And then I just like to whack it right there. Whack it just a little bit right there. I'm not trying to get through the whole thing all at once, just a little bit at a time. So this is the backbone of a chicken. There's a lot of flavor embedded in there, in the bones, in the meat, in the skin. There's not a whole lot, on there, but I usually throw this in my freezer, save it for some stock, some soups, just something just to know I've got it when I want some extra flavor to, brown in my pan or something like that. Or you can also throw this on the smoker, next to this. This will finish pretty quick if you just need like a little snack, a little nibbler or something like that. So now we've got a beautiful whole chicken that's been spatchcocked, basically flattened out, nice even layers. But we mentioned we're gonna cut this in half as well. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just feeling, you can kind of see where the bone broke, the breastbone, but I like to just kind of feel it out, push it apart with my fingers just a little bit so I have a path, I have an idea, and keep those breast muscles intact as much as possible. So I don't want part of this side cutting that one, and so I'm just separating it out with my fingers a little bit, and I can feel where the bone is, I can feel where it's kind of soft, you can kind of feel the muscles, and again, I'm just gonna, very little pressure, just kind of make a score mark, try to get a nice clean cut through that skin, kind of gently push through those soft bones. And once you get to the bottom, you can push on it like that. And there we go. Now we've got two beautiful chicken halves. ready for the smoker. Not quite, not quite. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm getting hungry for these bad boys. But we're going to season these up, but there's a few extra twists and turns to help ensure that we get the crispiest skin and most flavorful meat as well. And where a lot of people go wrong is they'll just sprinkle some salt, some meat, some seasonings, whatever it is they're wanting, butter, whatever, just on top of this skin. This skin is delicious, but it's also an nearly impenetrable layer of flavor. It keeps pretty much anything from getting in. That's what its job was, before it got to us, and that's what still its job is right now. And so what I like to do is just kind of separate the meat from the skin very gently. I want to do everything I possibly can to not rip this skin. Not only because it's great and it's going to look beautiful, but also we want that skin to do its job to hold all the juices and the flavors in when it's time. But I'm kind of just gently getting in here and making little pockets, breaking away the connective tissue very gently, very slowly. And we're gonna season the meat under the skin as well as on top of the skin, just to make sure that everything stays juicy and flavorful, and every single bite is exactly what we're looking for out of here. So let's talk about seasoning. Wet brining, dipping this in water. A water and salt solution is extremely popular for chicken. It's not something I like to do because it also waterlogs the skin, which makes it really hard to get crispy skin. It's not impossible, but it just makes it a lot harder. So what I like to do is just use our trusty old dry rub that we have here at the restaurant that we use in all of our meat. Salt and pepper, just a little bit of red pepper. Some people call this is a dry brine. There's wet brine where you're soaking it in water in a concentrated salt solution, but what I like to do with pretty much all of our meats is a dry brine. And basically all that means is you're seasoning with salt, not with salt and water, but it accomplishes a lot of the same goals. So instead of impregnating the meat with more water, you're just changing the structure of the molecules to where it holds on to its own water better. That's the science of it. All I know, I've learned little bits and pieces of it, but all I know, it tastes great, it works. When I don't do it, it doesn't taste as good, so I'm gonna keep doing it. What I'm doing is I'm just pulling the skin back, sprinkling a little bit on there, and just rubbing it around to try to get as even as a layer as I possibly can. You might notice we use table salt. It's a smaller crystal than kosher salt, and it's what we use on all of our meats. It's what my great-grandfather started with in the 1930s because that's all that was available to him. That's what we keep using because that's just part of our tradition. But also, I think it's the best application for any barbecue meat because it dissolves quickly, it penetrates and becomes part of the meat very easily, and just make sure that every single bite you get is deeply seasoned, deeply flavorful, and extra juicy. We've got this one seasoned on the inside, we got it seasoned on top of the skin, just a little bit, and then we're just gonna go ahead and season the back. So you want every single bite to have as much flavor as you possibly can. So if you've seen this fork sitting on the board, it's not because I'm ready to eat a piece of raw chicken. It's the final tool to help us ensure we get the crispiest skin we possibly can on here. In chicken, there's little pockets of fat, which you can see where the skin's a little bit whiter. You can see the meat through some of it. You can see pockets of fat in different areas of the chicken skin as well. Fat is flavor, fat is our friend. It can also waterlog the skin and keep it from getting nice and crispy. And so what we want to do is take advantage of that fat to help self-baste itself, basically. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna find those pockets of fat and we're just gonna gently poke through the skin, make little tiny holes through there. So as the fat heats up and it cooks, it can render/melt, dribble itself all over the skin, basically cooking its own fat in a way. Don't go overboard on it, just find those pockets, just give it some release points, some exits, and you're in business. This chicken, ready for the smoker. So we've got these chicken, we've let them rest for about an hour to let that salt really penetrate and dissolve into the meat. It's ready to go on the smoker. This, of course, is the smoker my grandfather built in the late 1940s. I don't even have one of these types at home, but it runs at 275 degrees. And what I suggest if you're just starting out, you're not sure about your smoker at home, start it at 225, just to make sure you're not gonna burn it, overcook it. And when I'm placing these on the smoker, that dark meat's got a lot more fat, a lot more juiciness, a lot more to break down. So I like to face that towards the hotter part of the fire because it can take it. We wanna preserve and give that white meat as best a chance we possibly can to be nice and juicy and flavorful without drying it out. Those legs, those thighs, they can take it. So we're gonna let those cook for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. Chicken always takes longer than you want it to, it seems. I'm sorry, I am stuttering, I am hungry, I haven't had lunch yet. I cannot wait for these to be done. All right, so we've got a clean board, a clean knife, and an empty stomach. I cannot wait to eat these. The chicken that we put on is still cooking. I went up to the front and stole it from the front because obviously our team does an amazing job on chicken every single day. And look at this beauty. It's got nice, crispy skin. It doesn't develop a bark like brisket, of course, because it's not on the smoker long enough, but that skin develops that nice mahogany color. You can see how it's getting nice and crispy, and the fat is rendered just perfectly. Beautiful, beautiful. So there's a lot of ways to enjoy it. Of course, you can put this on your plate, eat with a knife and fork. Barbecue, we like to use our hands. When we're selling it at the restaurant, and what I like to do at home, cut it into quarters first. So I'm just looking for that divide between the dark meat, the leg, and the thigh right there. You can kind of see a line. And just kind of sneak up under the wing a little bit and just kind of get through there. Those bones are nice and soft. And you've got the white meat right there. See how juicy that is? Not as marbled, it's not as fatty as dark meat, but still very, very juicy. And then you've got the dark meat too. So if I was serving this at a party, golly, look at that juice. Goodness. If I was serving this at a party or a big group, you had a lot of chicken, it was one of many different meats, I'd go ahead and cut this, a little bit more. I'd separate the leg from the thigh. And so what you're doing is you're just basically, the leg bone goes this direction. And so I'm just kind of get that knife parallel with the leg bone right there. And the easy way, just cut right through that thigh bone right there, and you got little nibblers there, so you got a nice leg. That's my son's favorite. Got the chicken thigh, which is my favorite as well. And I'm gonna dig in. I'm going for right here. Get that nice crispy skin and juicy. Look at that juiciness in there. The salt has dissolved and penetrated and seasoned the meat all the way throughout. I'm not just getting flavor from the skin. It's nice and crispy and smoky. The meat is full of so much flavor. You cannot go wrong with Black's Barbecue Chicken. With all those little tips I gave you, I hope your journey is as successful as this one. Let us know, like and subscribe. We'll be here putting out more recipe videos so you can enjoy little bits and pieces of Black's Barbecue on your own. And hopefully I can talk straight, but after having something like this, it's not easy. So cheers, you guys. Dang. You want some?